welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. We are doing something a bit different. So I didn't expect to film this video. I was actually planning to film something else for this week, but I finally caught up with my watch later list on YouTube and I watched a video that popped in my feed and was very provocatively staring at me and telling me to watch it. And I'm talking about Books Won't Save Us by Alice Cappelle. I've been looking at that video for a while and I hadn't watched it because I knew I might get upset. Just to start off by saying I follow Alice's work and it's really good. She actually manages to discuss contemporary culture, sometimes internet culture, sometimes more leaning towards politics, depends. I mean, she does a wide range of things and that's impressive in itself. But what's even more impressive is that she manages to talk about complex issues, phenomena, situations in such, she condenses everything into like 10-15 minutes, and I think I don't know how she does it. That requires some serious skill. Now, in the video, Alice is making a comparison between reading and activism, and she's claiming that whilst reading is something she really enjoys, and she enjoys watching people on BookTube, and she likes adding books to her TBR, we shouldn't confuse reading with active social change, and definitely not with activism. The points felt really convoluted. I felt like she went from one topic to the next. It was really confusing to understand why reading was put into that video. It felt like the video was about activism and somehow books were dragged into it. So I'm gonna break down my video into parts and discuss 3 reasons why reading will save us, books will save us, but not as a replacement to activism. Why reading is not the same as staying informed. In the video of Alice, books were merely referenced as tools to keep you informed on contemporary issues or perhaps other general topics, and that is bizarre because not everyone reads just to stay informed. But the point was that you don't need books to stay informed, because Elise mentioned that older people often say, oh, kids don't read these days. And with regards to that, first of all, kids don't read these days, but I wouldn't blame them because, as I mentioned in my previous video, there is a thing that has changed in the life of younger people today versus like younger people, I don't know, 40 years ago, and it's technology, and technology is making you waste your time. I don't like when technology is seen as equally valuable at informing you on contemporary issues as books, especially when we're referring to nonfiction books. There is some level of complexity in the arguments that are made in a completed work. That's why you need to go through, I don't know, 300, 400 pages to get to the end, because there's a lot that is being discussed. It's not just a simple yes or no answer to a question. Reading nonfiction is not just about getting facts. It's not just to, I don't know, check a list of things you always wanted to know. It's a journey into an argument and an understanding of various aspect of a topic. You will notice that if you read a history book or if you read a very detailed book on a specific topic that you're interested in, when you finish the book, you will remember a lot of very specific points and some details. A few months later, you won't remember most of it. But then what stays? What's the point of reading? Why don't we just skip books altogether? Because I personally really don't remember the details of some of my favorite nonfiction books that I've read. But what changes is a tiny part of me. I don't know how to describe it. It's as if a switch has been flipped and I suddenly have more corners of a room illuminated. Like parts of my understanding that I didn't know were there have lit up. Some objects have been added. There's a general change in my perspective, and that is what stays from reading nonfiction books. It's not the information. Now, that cannot be done by an article or an Instagram post or a YouTube video, and that's strictly down to the format. It's not because the person who's writing the article doesn't know enough about the topic or because the YouTube creator isn't objective enough. It's just because watching a video is not the same as going through a 300-page book. And that's just the beauty of reading for me. It's not, we shouldn't pick one or the other, but putting them side to side and saying, you know what, it doesn't matter that kids don't read these days because they watch and they get informed on YouTube, carries a lot of assumptions. Reading is not something that one should do to get to a goal. Okay, we all have superficial goals, like, yes, I want to read more, I want to read 1 book per week, I want to read 1 book per month, I want to read X many books per year. And those things are fun, motivational tools sometimes in order to kind of get yourself to read, especially in an age when technology is doing everything it can to keep you scrolling. And that is why I was a bit upset at the video, because it implied reading is such an easy choice that, okay, just be an activist instead of read. And I'm wondering what a superhuman one has to be to find reading such an easy choice when literally we are all hooked to these portable devices that basically tell us, look at me, look at me, look at me, don't do anything else, look at me. It's so hard for people to read because they have so many other options. You can pick a book, or you can choose to get these constant dopamine rushes throughout the day. So I just don't get why reading is only valuable as a tool to be informed, and how that is similar to just going on the internet and reading an article. Because if nothing else, to read means to leave the online world for a bit and be present in your surroundings and just be in the physical world. Whether you're listening to an audiobook or reading an ebook, that it will mean that you're not on the internet for some time. You're focusing on reading. It's better than scrolling on Instagram for sure. And also, there is inherent value in letting the book guide you to where it wants to guide you, and not go in with your preconceived notions and expect to get something from it. Even if you go in with that mindset, it doesn't let you keep it for long, because you get in the book and it actually does its magic. And in the end, you kind of, even if you don't want to, you will probably either forget about your goal or forget about the book and leave the book aside. And that, in my opinion, is just valuable as it is. So what's left? Moving on to why reading fiction is valuable, because that was also missing from the video. There's like no mention of fiction. It's just books are here to teach you things. And I do think that you get things out of fiction, but not information. You develop your empathy, and developing empathy is so important for community work and understanding the world and caring about others and caring about social issues. If anything, the more empathetic we are, the more we care about people other than us, situations other than our own, lives other than our own, other places, other things. It's very much contingent on having empathy. And that's what's really admirable about activism and community work. Somehow these people are going against the individualistic grain that is what capitalism promotes, and that is how we function because we adapt to our socioeconomic, cultural context. That's how we live. Any person trying to affect social change is saying no to individualism. They're just building communities. They are managing to think about people that are not themselves or those they're closely related to. And that's beautiful. And I think if anything, literature and other forms of art, but literature even more so, does that to the reader. It tells the reader, look, there's a different perspective to yours. This story, this life that you're going to be immersed in for the next however many hours, you're going to consider their viewpoints and you're going to care about them. That's beautiful. And that is not a replacement to actual real life work, but it's also not negligible in terms of impact. I basically agree. Reading is not activism. If at any point in this video you thought I was going to argue that one can just sit back in life, read books, and think that they are changing the world, then that's obviously not the case. Ibram Kendi, in his best-selling book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, mentioned at some point in his community work, the work that he was doing at university. I don't remember exactly what he was doing at that point when he referred to this. He said that he realized that educating people, making them understand, was not the same as direct, active participation in the real world. I think he understood the limits of academia as well. You need to organize, target, respond to real problems and not just read about them, talk about them, inform people on them. Information will not translate into action on its own. And that is what Alice is also saying in her video, using Freire as an example. And that is true. Will most people be activists? No. But it's wrong of any person who loves books, loves reading, and follows these Instagram accounts that tell you, oh, 5 books you need to read to learn about this. It's wrong to think that just reading those books makes you an active participant in solving them. We all need to, first of all, understand the difference between really being part of a cause and just seeing it from afar. With reading, you can comprehend various aspects of something, but you shouldn't suddenly think you're an insider, because you're not in many cases, unless an issue directly affects you. And that is really, really important, especially in an age when everyone's an activist, everyone thinks that posting a story makes them revolutionary, they're affecting social change, and that's just okay, chill, literally. And I say that to myself as well. And as an example, that I read How to Be an Antiracist by Ibram x Kendi doesn't make me an active participant in making this world less racist, at least not in a big scale. But do I behave differently towards people around me? Do I discuss these issues differently? Yes. Has this book really stayed with me? Yes. If most people are not going to be active in improving their communities because that's how it works, most people won't either have the time or the interest or both. Would I rather that they were interested in an issue enough to read a book, comprehend something a bit more deeply, and then behave differently towards those around them, even if it's just a small change in their everyday actions? Yes, I would. And I think we all would. And that's why books will save us. Not because they're enough in themselves, but because they are definitely a positive step in the right direction, especially in an era when social media and phones and tablets make everything so just snappy and belligerent and just a mini attack in every sentence, and polarization is definitely what this environment creates. Books do the exact opposite. Even if a book is literally the most incisive, polarizing read, it's still a long argument. It is a process. It is a journey into a very polarizing view, but it is a journey. It's not a dopamine rush. So to wrap this up, part 4, conclusion. I would have agreed with everything said in this video if books and reading weren't dragged into it. Namely, if this book was about social media activism and working in real life versus just understanding from afar. I understand that titles need to be catchy, especially when the algorithm is so unpredictable and when, again, in an environment where our attention is so impatient, everything is about quick decision making. Oh my god, what thumbnail will just make me instantly click? I understand why putting, I don't know, Chuck Edwards, Carly, and just reading is cool on a thumbnail makes people automatically, and that's why I instantly, is this video really gonna make me sad? And it did. But ultimately, because I agree with the points Alice makes, I just think that these points could have been made without putting reading on some sort of opposition to social change. And that is why I made this video. I hope it was clear that this was not an attack, but rather a thought out disagreement. And I think she's an amazing creator. So if maybe you somehow got to my video without getting to hers, which is probably impossible, but if you haven't, you should definitely watch her video. And she makes excellent points and so much more succinctly than I have done in this video, because I'm not as skilled. I don't know how to put so much information and so many good points in like 10 minutes. I wish I could. If I'm ever capable of doing that, I will be really proud of myself. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to disagree with me in the comment section and definitely give me ideas for future videos. Thank you. Bye. forget to make this point on every single one of my videos, but I do put a lot of stuff in the description boxes in general. I put a lot of links, sometimes if I'm referencing things in a video, but even if I don't directly mention them, I will put the links in the description box of the articles. If anyone's interested enough to check that out, it's there.